Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before calling this meeting to order, the board would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. The order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda. One item that you may notice on the agenda is the consent agenda. This item includes this item includes items that are considered routine and/or are of a recurring nature. All the items listed under the consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. If there is a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up to speak to that item, and we will pull it from the consent motion and discuss it separately. The purpose of our meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason, it is held in public. It is not a public forum, however. We do provide the opportunity for audience participation, and if there is anyone who would like to address the board during an agenda item or citizens to be heard portion of the agenda, we ask that you please register on the sign-in sheet located at the entrance of the room over by Monica. She just waved at us. This is so we do not overlook anyone who would like to speak to the board. We will review the rules for addressing the board later in the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to sign up to an agenda item and has not done so? All right, the meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand as Trustee Chumley leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chumley. All right, we are moving right along to the superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell, members of the board. Just a few items to report tonight. One is, want to thank the members of the board who were, as well as our communications staff and our facilities staff, for hosting the groundbreaking for our 12th high school, which happened, as you know, not long ago. We will begin the naming work for the high school in the coming spring, so that process is soon to kick off for the board. So excited about what we will see there. Recently was at a brief conference for the Coalition for Education Funding and heard several presentations, among them an economist who really looks at Texas children, data around Texas children, and unfortunately in the holiday season shared with us some pretty sobering data. As we know, we're right ahead of the 2020 census. So between 2010 and 2020, Texas is expected to grow 4.5 million people in that one decade.
Wow.
Most of that 4.5 million will be in the 5 biggest urban counties that you obviously know of. 20.9% of Texas children live in poverty. That ranks quite high in national rankings. Texas rate of uninsured children is 11.2%, which is the highest in the nation. The national average is less than half of that. Texas lags the nation in sending kids directly to college from high school, and among those who have a college degree between the ages of 25 and 34, there are huge race and ethnicity gaps in who we're seeing get those college degrees. And basically the conclusion of all of that is, while we made some good progress in the most recent legislative session, we have a long way to go as a state to help the future of our state, the children of our state. And that is something that we will need to keep focused on as we go into the primary elections in March and then the November general election. We have a long way to go as a state. Much more positive news now. So recently got to attend the J Science Engineering Fair this past weekend and saw, as per usual, some incredible projects, some of which I would have needed Alice Fiedler, I see in the back, to translate for me. I had very little idea what the kid was talking about. I assume it was really well done, but in honesty, I can't tell you whether or not some of them were really well done. I do want to point out, though, that this year they introduced a new strand and offered it to the high school kids of combining art and engineering. So you had teams of kids working together to create a kinetic art project that used at least one aspect of engineering in the project. And I was absolutely fascinated by kids, kind of traditional science fair kids, working with very artistic kids to come up with this kind of mashup project. And I was really fascinated by those projects. And the middle school principals and science teachers that were there were all saying, this is, next year we're doing this, right? We're gonna combine these kinds of kids into something that's really interesting. And it was fascinating to me, as much as we hear about the importance of diverse groups of people coming together to work in as a team to solve a problem, that is exactly what they were doing here. These were teams of kids working together to solve problems of both art and engineering. So really, really fascinating. So I want to compliment the folks at J and J Science Academy for another great fair. Last night, thanks to those of you who were able to attend the NEF annual meeting, thanks to Cassandra Miranda, and especially to Tomas Laralde and all of the board members, the volunteers on the foundation's board, had a really nice meeting, extremely well done. The foundation had a really successful year. So I'm going to wrap with a holiday message. So as we do each December, we don't do a video moment. So we do more of a live action feature at our December meeting. And so I want to ask if James Hare can hear me. That I hope all of you have been able to attend some holiday events. There are hundreds that are still going and available in the next week and a half, and we're gonna reintroduce the Briscoe Middle School Choir under the direction of Heather Cole. Ladies, come on in.
It's the Briscoe Girls Choir. It's the girls' choir. Girls. Yes? No? Yeah.
Thank you all very much. We're going to start with a holiday classic, Carol of the Bells, and then we're going to do a arrangement of Boom, Boom, Boom. Follow that.
Thanks to all of you for bringing us a little holiday cheer at our meeting. We are so pleased that you were here with us. Thank you so much. Ms. Cole, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
thank you. Happy
Ladies, thank you all.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Beautiful.
Woo! Great job. Great job.
So just to wrap up, I know we say this every year, but we have over 75,000 students participating every day in some way in the arts in our school district, and it is always a source of pride to see those students perform or put their work on for display. So thanks for that. And that, along with a message of just happy holidays for me to everyone, that concludes the superintendent's report. Dr. Harrell.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. All right, we will move along to the board members' report. Are there any board members who would like to share something?
Everybody?
Ms. Freeman, then Ms. Reed.
I thought maybe somebody clicked.
I know.
Thank you, Ms. Harrell. We had a TASB board meeting this past weekend, and a few general announcements that you all might be interested in. This is interesting. Leadership Team Services has now essentially changed its name to something that might be more relevant to what they do. And so they're rebranding to Board Development Services. So instead of LTS, you're going to hear Board Development Services. Also, an announcement to Grassroots. Region 20 meeting is February 20th from 6 to 8 at Region 20. Bobby, I know you had some help in TASB with TASB scheduling that through the coalition, and thank you for doing that. The agenda is very similar to what we've had in the past. There'll be dinner from 6 to 7. There'll be a legislative session review during that time that docs will go ahead and present at. And then 7 to 8, we're going to identify some top issues that is of a concern to those people in the room that represent the school districts in Region 20. And then we'll have the election of the LAC members, our Legislative Action Committee members. And Region 20 actually will have the opportunity to nominate 8 people that go to the grassroots meeting to become part of a larger group that meets, that represents the all the regions. It'll meet a couple times to help develop the TASB legislative agenda. They take those issues that were topics of conversation at each of the regions, and that all bubbles up to the legislative agenda, and it goes on. It's truly a grassroots process in developing the legislative agenda for TASB as we go into the next legislative session. And to that point, I was talking to Dr. Woods. There is a TASB survey that goes out to all school board trustees across the state, and it essentially asks what's important to us. So each of us have an opportunity to respond. We also have an opportunity to respond as a board, and so we're going to be discussing that in policy and then bringing that back to the next board meeting for possible approval, and then those issues will go forward to the grassroots meeting in February. And then governance camp, formerly winter governance, is going to be at Galveston. I think this is the 3rd year they've had it in Galveston, as opposed to Corpus. And there's a focus on student voice in this particular conference. And I know Linda's had it in Friday Letter, but the registration opens, I think, the first week in January. So if you're interested in going, please tell Linda. The hotel rooms fill up quite quickly, and there are none, we don't get to reserve any as a district. So if you're interested, get your information to Linda.
Camping things?
I don't think this is going to be but maybe we could do something. Maybe we could start something like that, you know? Okay.
Governance camp. Okay.
Yes, and that would be it, Dr. Harrell.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reed?
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. Actually, there have been a lot of things going on in the last month, but I'm going to at least talk about a few of them that happened just in the last couple days. As mentioned earlier, the NEF board did have their annual meeting where they changed officers and so forth, and last night, and then also giving out awards to people that have been of service and done above and beyond during this past school year, which was a very interesting evening, and the Taft Jazz group was also singing there, which is always wonderful. They always have great groups.
Brennan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Taft
Taft with the
Culinary.
cooking.
Yes,
It
they
was
did
Taft Culinary Group that provided the food, and Brennan did the choir, or jazz ensemble. So it was a wonderful evening, and our past outgoing chairman has done a great job, and I'm sure our incoming one will also do as great a job. And Carol made remarks last night, and along with our superintendent. It was a very nice evening. This morning, I actually went to a breakfast with the mayor, which I go to once a month, and he was talking about all the things they're trying to get arranged and so forth, so especially with transportation, and I'm thinking, yeah, will you send us some bus drivers, please? After that, the Northwest Democrats were actually planting trees again at our elementary schools. The weather was not very conducive to the one that they were planning at Fisher Elementary, so they just had a very small ceremony indoors. And then at 11:30, they planted a tree at Powell Elementary in memory of Paul Elizondo, who was our county commissioner for many, 31 years is what they said. And his son was there, and it was a very short ceremony because it was cold outside. And they did put the tree, not in the ground, but next to it, and they will come back and plant it when it's a little warmer, hopefully maybe tomorrow. It is always a nice ceremony that they do, and we do need to remember that because they do that, it's because of Joyce Doricott, who has been very instrumental in doing the tree planting ceremonies and getting contributions to do so, and they're always planted at a Northside Elementary School. And I think they've planted probably at least 20 trees, if not more, so that's a really nice thing that they do. One of these days, we should probably have some press there when it's a nice day for tree planting, so that it can be planted, and the kids are usually always there, and we'll try to make sure that that happens next time. One of the other things I wanted to mention was at the Alamo Area Council of Governments, we did have our color guard from Brandeis High School that presented the colors at their annual meeting last week, I guess it was, and then also someone who sang the national anthem, a girl, I think she was also from Brandeis. And they did a fantastic job. Everybody was very thankful that they did it, and the kids all said that they enjoyed doing it. I actually talked to their I don't even know what we call him, who's the military guy that is in charge of them. He was out at NEF, at the thing, yeah, whatever. The military personnel who was there last night, and he said the kids really enjoyed doing it too. So those are all kind of things that we do in this community and that the community does with us, and we just need to remember all those things. Also, last night I wanted to mention that the Museum Association has their new cookbook out, and it has a marvelous history of Northside School District. And the booklet itself is more like the kind, it's on a binder kind, a hard-covered binder, so you can actually take the recipe out while you're working on the recipe and not have the whole book there, or add to it. And it helps to support the work of the Museum Association, and if anybody needs a Christmas gift to give to somebody, I would encourage you to contact them because they are taking orders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Any other board members? Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, just two items. I don't know if anybody else had the opportunity to attend the Taft High School musical "Crazy for You" performance. Did you see it?
I saw it.
Yeah, that's great. It really was. I really enjoyed it. Nice crowd there and everything else, and just as y'all may have seen an email sent to us, just having the choir, art, dance team, band, orchestra, theater, everybody was there. It was really, really enjoyable. So definitely worthwhile. It's good to see. I went the last day. What day did you go?
No, I didn't go. I saw the.
Oh, you saw it. My bad.
I saw the invite.
Oh, that's right. We're not supposed to go back and forth. I'm sorry. Breaking rules. Anyway, I ended up going on the Sunday, the last day, and it was a good crowd too. So really enjoyed that. And the second one, I think everybody knows it now, but we're going to have our coalition meeting. This should be really good. I'm looking forward to this one. We've got our SBOE representative. He's going to be giving us an update on some training requirements coming forth or in forth from SBOE and why, and let us talk that through with her, as well as a couple other items. We had a chance last night, actually, and thanks Karen for attending. Our committee looked at the book, and we'll be talking about that a little bit and where that's at, and get some feedback and comments from the others there. If Selby on the Bell, some representatives there, want to talk about some after school and some of the activities, update us on. And then the last one, which is going to be really, really interesting, and Doc's is coming down, Gonzalez from TASB, is the conversation, just talking about consolidation. We'll just leave it at that. So anyway, that's going to be a good occasion. I'm looking forward to it. And Edgewood's hosting, by the way. Edgewood Ice.
At the Fine Arts.
No, Burleson.
beau-
The Burleson. Is that the Fine Arts also?
Uh-huh.
I know
It's
well.
beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Blunt. Mr. Lopez.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, I didn't have a chance to attend many of the events going on in the past couple of weeks, but I will be attending, and I just wanted to just throw it out there to you as a board. Luna will be having a tamalera. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Luna Elementary, Middle School, I'm sorry. They will be making tamales. So if you've wondered how it will be on Saturday, the 14th from 10 to 1. But I wanted to just invite you guys. I mean, she invited all of us. She sent us an email. But if you've ever wondered what it would be like and how to make tamales, it'd be a good opportunity to come out there and be a part of it. And then to get to taste your own creation, too. So that's always interesting. Wanted to thank the Briscoe Choir. Thank you very much, Ms. Cole and James Hare, and also James Machoco is the director of our fine arts. You guys do such a wonderful job, and in the past 5 years, I can say since I've been on the board, it always seems to be at this moment when the choir comes in that gets me into the spirit of Christmas. So thank you for doing that, and the parents for supporting their children in the fine arts. And so I'm in that mood, in the Christmas spirit, and so thank you very much for that. And that's pretty much it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Medina?
Thank
gonna
you,
beat you
Dr.
to the
Harrow. Just real quickly, during the Thanksgiving break, we had multiple football teams, and there was other events that were going on, athletic-wise. We had basketball tournaments going on, all Northside Gym. Moving forward, there were so many other events that I kind of have a trail with me. I have two little boys that are generally with me. My older one's kind of high schooler, so he does his own thing. And so that time during Thanksgiving and, seeing our student athletes committed, that they're out there showing what they really want to do as a team and working out there on the court, but also, taking on that adversity, being challenged on their own holiday time. So it's really awesome to see. Harlan football, great season. Coach Solis and his staff and Mr. Harris and his administration did a wonderful job. What a wonderful season. As well as Brandeis, their community, they fought really hard through the playoffs, and they really showed how Northside is really does a very well in those times of athletic events. But again, I just wanted to give that community a shout out for a job well done.
Thank you very much. Ms. Chumley?
I just had a couple. I was part of the NEF Patrol, the Prize Patrol. That is so much fun. And one of the winners was Sean Carlson, our architect. His wife is an art teacher. And I'm thinking Elrod, but don't hold me to that right this minute. But anyway, it was really great.
Sorry, Ray and I are debating now. Keep going.
All right, well, when y'all remember, because midnight tonight, it'll come back to me. But I think it was Elrod. Anyway,
Nichols, we agree, Nichols.
I didn't go to Nichols.
I don't think we moved, or maybe we did.
I didn't go, guys, I did not go to Nichols, so we're sticking to Elrod, okay?
We will correct it in the notes.
Okay, correct it in the notes.
I know, we'll figure it out.
Okay, I really like it. This is what okay, you guys, I didn't go to Nichols. This is a first, Dr. Woods.
We're gonna stay out of your board member's report now.
Anyway, when y'all get a chance, it is so much fun. And it's been a while since I've done it because it's just sometimes hard to fit that in. But it really was worthwhile, and the teachers are just so excited, and the kids. And it was really neat because one of them was, I'm not even going to try to guess what school I was at, was a PE teacher, and her student teacher who went to school in Northside was with her when we gave her the prize. And so that was really neat. That was exciting for that. Kudos to Harlan Hawks. That game, if it had just gone on a few more minutes, they just, I was so amazed at how hard those kids fought. And I mean, that team they were playing was tough, and which I can't remember who it was. So,
Westlake.
Wagner, I can't remember anything tonight. Anyway, I just was amazed at how much they fought back, because I thought that every time I thought the game was going to go completely out of hand, the Hawks came back and shut them down and scored points, and it was amazing. And the same thing, I will jump off of Joseph to Brandeis. They were amazing. They really were. And so I want to congratulate those two athletic programs. And Dr. Woods and Stan Lank as well. So I tried to help with the luncheon for the Holmes Huskies, who had a really tough year, but stayed encouraged and fought. And what I really like about the Husky program is that those kids really take responsibility about being a role model for underclassmen and for the middle and elementary students that they work with. And anyway, I ended up not being able to go to luncheon. So Dr. Woods and Stan took care of that for me. And so I just wanted to say thank you, Brian, for going. It was very much appreciated. And I can't remember if we talked about the groundbreaking or not. Have we had a board meeting since the groundbreaking? No.
I don't think so.
I really, really enjoyed the groundbreaking, though it was awfully windy. But if you haven't had a chance to go out to that site, that huge century oak that we are saving out on that site is beautiful. It is absolutely an amazing tree. I think it's going to be really a nice piece of the landscape of this high school. But I was just really impressed that we have such great individuals in our building, our construction community that work with Northside Schools. Gary Joris is extremely, and Carl McLennan and all of the Joris guys are very committed to doing the very best they can. And Jerry Lammers is just a real pleasure to work with as an architect. And I hear horror stories, particularly I have some friends in the Valley, of some of the activities have gone on within construction programs. And I think we're just really blessed, and I really enjoyed that groundbreaking. Karen brought remarks, and they were spot on. She did an amazing job, just really good remarks, too. Anyway, that was it.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention another thank you to the Fine Arts Department for giving us a chronological calendar of events this season, and hopefully it'll continue into the spring, because it was wonderful to kind of look and see when you had a free opportunity to take your family to an event. And last week I took my grandkids to see Mary Poppins at Harlan. And anytime you can keep a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in their chair without moving for 2 hours and 20 minutes. They did stand up for a little bit. They never went to the bathroom. In fact, at intermission, I thought we were going to leave because it was a school night. And Nicholas said, Grandma, can we stay till the end? And it was the best collection of elementary, middle, and high school students. There were at least 24 or 25 on stage at several of the scenes, which is really difficult to do. But it was incredible. And I really was, I was really speechless at the end. I really said thank you and all those kind of platitudes, but it was just incredible. And we got to sit next to Mr. Banks' mother, who was just delighting in her son's stardom. And whenever she said he's very serious. He's very serious. He works really hard, and he's very serious. He's got 5 sisters, and he's the only boy. But when he did these silly things in the play, of course, it was Mary Poppins, she giggled and she laughed and she had more fun. And a lot of the parents were around us. And so, anyway, but again, I thank the Fine Arts Department for providing that. And it made me think that maybe we should do something like the Majestic, where we do season ticket holders and they buy their tickets ahead of time, because this was better than Majestic. It was better than Broadway. It was incredible. So thank you for that. And also, I did want to kind of piggyback on what Melissa said. The prize patrol, or the grant patrol, was just so incredible. The kids would scream and yell and hug Apple Annie and delight in their teachers. And middle school kids were, there was a lot of applause and celebration. And I did share last night that the kids all just love Apple Annie and Apple Eddie. The middle school kids, you could hear in the hallway say things like, wow, I wish I had her eyelashes. Or wow, she has Khloe Kardashian's eyelashes. And then one little boy said, ma'am, if you put a brown shirt on her, those could be 2 worms coming out of either side of the apple. And so, that was just middle school. But I had more fun. I had more fun. And you're right, Melissa. It's incredible to hear the innovation and the creativity that goes into those. So anyway, but thanks to everybody for attending things and doing such great work. And Karen for giving remarks the other day. I really appreciate that. And Katie for giving remarks at Hausman. Thank you so much. And moving right along, we will
Carol,
now, tell
just
me.
real quick.
Sure.
I had one thing I wanted to add. So we went to Driggers. I remember this
You sure?
one. Positive it was Driggers.
Okay.
So we went to Driggers, and one of the winners was homesick with her child. And so we said, well, we'll have to work it out where we can come back. And the principal said, well, no, hang on a minute, let's FaceTime. So he called the mom, and we FaceTime, presenting her. Mrs. Molesky came up, and so we presented the prize, and then we have this video of all of us like this selfieing with her. And I just thought that was kind of a neat idea. That the principal would call the teacher so that she didn't miss out on, the excitement of that. And we played the music and the whole thing. I mean, anyway, I just thought it was a neat use of technology that
I love
that
it.
we did that. So that was
I love
fun.
it. And thanks to our partners too for donating all that money and their volunteer time as well. So, all right, we are now going to move to recognitions with our CPS Energy Check presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Carl. Board members, superintendent. This evening, Northside ISD will receive a check issued by CPS due to the district's participation in the Demand Response Program. Demand Response is a voluntary program that not only helps San Antonio Electrical Grid, but also helps ERCOT Grid, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. Did I get that right? Okay, good. Which powers the entire state. This program helps prevent rolling brownouts and blackouts, not only in San Antonio, but across the state. As you know, or as you may or may not know, this summer was forecasted to be one of the hottest summers in history. Typically, the ERCOT grid has a reserve margin of anywhere from 15 to 18%. This year, however, because of growth and obviously the challenge of the heat, the reserve margin was forecasted to be anywhere from 7 to 8%. CPS reached out to customers in an effort to reduce KW, which is a unit of measure, and sure, if you get to build it at your house, you'll know what that KW looks like, and to increase its participation to reduce, obviously, the consumption. Participation in this program by adding, and Northside stepped up and added 2,100 KW to the reserve and achieved a 80% of its goal. This is one of several collaborative types of efforts that we have, Northside has with CPS, which have been very, very successful. So tonight, Robert Olivares, CPS Key Account Manager for Northside ISD, is here to present a check totaling $168,801.73 to Northside as a result of the district's participation in their demand response program. But before I do that, let me introduce one of the staff members, who is Tracy Avery. She's right there. And Tracy is one of our energy specialists. And Tracy has the pleasure of scheduling everything that happens at Northside. And I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of events, functions. We shut down the systems. We put up the system. That's the lady that makes it all happen for us. So thank you, Tracy, for that. So to that, I would like to introduce Mr. Robert Olivares to a couple of words, and then we'll have a photo op.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to present this gigantic check. I feel like a game show host every time
That's
I
right.
do this. I've done 4 of these already.
Good.
And I feel like a game show. Game show host, here you go, you just won 168,000. No, but really, like Mr. Semigo said, it's truly, you know, we really appreciate any kind of participation Northside has. Northside is one of the largest, or it is the largest district in San Antonio, so any participation is great, but the fact that this year you really stepped up and added more KW to the program, it really helps us out, just like Mr. San Miguel said, with the overall grid for San Antonio and also all of Texas. I've been with CPS for 10 years now, and this is the first time that we've been tasked urgently with increasing KW from our customers. It was in years past, we're always saying, hey, yeah, if you can do it, great. You know, but this year was like, we really need you guys to do it, and we really appreciated the increase, and we hope that next year I can come back with an even bigger check for you guys.
That would be great.
Thank you.
You want us to come down and do a photo? We're going to leave it on display.
And then heading for the Caymans, right?
That's why you retired. That's why you retired.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would do that. Something bad would happen.
I told Mr. San Miguel and Mr. Rasolini those dollars are already spent, so don't be planning on spending those dollars. But Leroy, congratulations to your folks. That's a tremendous rebate check. We get rebate checks from the public utilities on a regular basis, just usually not quite that large. So thanks very much to staff as well as to CPS. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have any motions to approve the consent agenda as is? Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. We'll move on to citizens to be heard. We do have one. Do you see? This is a time when we allow citizens to address the board. The Citizens to be Heard agenda is not intended to be a forum for resolving disputes or charges against individual district employees or students. Such complaints or allegations should and will be routed to other channels for appropriate handling in accordance with the applicable board policies. If your topic involves a personal matter, or personnel matter, or a student matter, or if you contend that your legal rights have been violated or board policy not followed, we have specific procedures for these matters, and now is not the appropriate time to discuss such matters. As a result, if you sign up to speak or begin talking about one of these topics, you will be asked to stop speaking and directed to the appropriate policy. We respectfully ask that you refrain from making personal attacks or rude or slanderous remarks. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments, and refrain from saying or doing anything to disrupt the meeting. In addition, while it is not our intent to stifle public comment, speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. So, citizens to be heard. We believe that citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we will listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law by taking any action. All right. Do we have a speaker?
Yes, Mr. Cody Holder.
Mr. Oder, hang on just a second. I'm missing the piece that talks about your time. Okay, hang on. Here it is on this side. No, you can, thank you. You get to use the podium, so we have that down. You get to address your remarks to the board. Confine your remarks to a Northside policy or practice, and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, the board secretary, Mr. Medina, will hold up the yellow card. At 3 minutes, the board secretary will hold up the red card. We ask that you wrap up your remarks at that point. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Cody Holder. It's an honor and privilege to be here tonight to talk to you for a couple of reasons. The first being my wife is a speech teacher and a basketball coach and volleyball coach at Brennan High School. So I'm excited to see the support staff and the support team around her here at the district office. The second is, as a former music teacher, it was a perfect night for me to come myself and hear the choir. So they did a fantastic job. The third reason I'm excited to be here is I used to work in local government, so talking to boards is something that I'm accustomed to, and I wanted just to dispense some information. My job is as I am certified as an education expert at Microsoft. So my job is to engage communities, schools, and ISDs to talk to you all and give you information about free partnerships. I want to emphasize the free. My job is to train your teachers, give them the power and the tools to give to the students so that they can achieve more. Our mission statement at Microsoft is to empower every person and every organization to achieve more. We do that by our trainings. Our tools are readily available in our office suite so that your students who might not have a traditional learning style such as dyslexia, they might have color blindness, complete visual impairment, or they might be ESL learners. We have the tools readily with the click of a button to help empower your students if they have those various learning styles to achieve and they're not feeling left out or excluded. Or if your students have a traditional learning style, it's just another arrow in their quiver for them to use more. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to make sure that I gave you the information and y'all can do with it what you will. We can easily translate an entire document with the click of a button and send it off in an email, things like that, and make sure that all students have live translation of teachers who are speaking in front of a class. I just want to make sure that your teachers are empowered to empower your students to achieve more. So thank you for your time tonight. You guys have a great evening, and happy holidays to all of you.
And you do this. Thank you very much.
Do this completely for free. Yes, ma'am.
Really?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ms. Chumley, did you have more comments?
No, I was
Okay.
gonna make the motion on the consent agenda. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, we are moving down to item 15, administrative boundary proposal for changes from Scarborough Elementary to Knowlton Elementary and Burke Elementary. Mr. Galindo.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, trustees. So for the past couple of years, Scarborough has hovered at about 1,000 students, and our projections are that it'll continue to grow in that area. And so that being said, we looked at surrounding areas to try to provide some relief. And some of the schools that we feel have capacity are Knowlton and Burke. And so this proposal will actually, if approved, will transfer some students from both, or to both, I should say, Knowlton and Burke from Scarborough, and provide some relief that they're going to need in the short term. And then actually, because of the growth in this area, we'll probably come back and discuss for future relief, as well as that area continues to grow very quickly. And so with that, to present the proposals, Ms. Debbie McNerney and Pam Garcia is here with her as well.
Let me
You're
just
welcome.
ask Debbie, something just real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know that we ever built target schools for 550.
In the past,
This is a 98.
yeah, in the past, we did, some schools are slightly smaller. In general, 660 and 800 were the targets, but what's occurred, sometimes if an area is, and I don't remember specifically with Burke, I could research that for you,
No,
but
that's
if we've
okay.
done renovations, if they have more types of support rooms, you lose some capacity because of the way they use things. But if you look, especially at our older schools, we have kind of a variety of,
By then, we had already kind of settled on the 600 to 8.
I can't answer that specifically. I don't know that off the top of my head, but it could be the way they have utilized special programs, and there could have been some construction or something that changed that. But that's it. So its target enrollment is designed to match very closely to its capacity without portables. So, okay. So, Dr. Hall, Dr. Woods, and members of the board, we're here to present the initial look at this boundary proposal. If you could go ahead, Monica. We're talking about Scarborough, Burke, and Knowlton, and Scarborough is a target enrollment 800 school, and like Mrs. Chumley mentioned, Burke is a 550 school, and Knowlton is a 750. And again, Knowlton I can speak to directly. That has to do with the way rooms were used and over time. Okay? And as usual, we'll bring you the goals, the details of the proposal, and the effects on sending and receiving schools. And if you'll take just a minute to look up on the map here, Scarborough is right here, and this is the boundary for Scarborough. So this is Calabra Road, and this is Gom Road, and it comes down like this, and then comes up and includes this area. So all of this area, and then all of this area are in Scarborough. And I'm going to take a minute and talk about all of the schools that are immediately around Scarborough, because we know we need to relieve Scarborough. There are two schools in this current bond issue, Bond 2018, that will be opening in this area. One will open right up in here, FM 471 number 4, in 21-22, and then the second one will open somewhere down in this area in a subsequent year. So when we looked at what we need to relieve Scarborough before we can open the next schools even, we looked at areas that are furthest from Scarborough and all of the surrounding schools to determine where do we have available capacity. And you know the areas in this school, and you know what the growth is like. We have some challenges when we look at that. Just to give you a little bit of background about the geography. So Scarborough is located in the Stillwater Ranch subdivision right in this area. And then this is all Stillwater. This is a newer Prescott Oaks, a new subdivision that's just recently started and developing. And then there's a subdivision down here at Talisa, Calabra. There are some rural addresses along Gom Road and such. And then there is a single story multifamily complex here. Another multifamily complex that is affordable housing that is under construction. And then we come down here along Calabra Road, and I'll show you some specifics about neighborhoods in this area as we continue down this area. So as we began to look at Scarborough, as Mr. Galindo said, is about 1,000 students this year. Its capacity with max portables is 1,195 students, and next year we're projected to be right at about 1,200 students. So the challenge we have is providing enough relief from Scarborough so that they can continue to hold their students with maximum portables on their campus until we can provide additional relief with the opening of a subsequent school in Bond 2018. As you look, Scarborough is projected to peak just at around 1,400 students, and then slightly will age in some of those over-yielding areas as they return to normal, be just under 1,300 long-term. So we've got to provide a little bit of relief until we can provide additional relief with the school opening. When we looked at schools around Scarborough to say where do we have capacity and where could we relieve them, when you look at what's adjacent to Scarborough's boundary, this area right here is Franklin. Franklin is already above its target enrollment, so no additional capacity there. As we come around this area is all currently in Callison. No additional capacity there. We need to relieve Callison with the next school that opens. As we come down around in this area, we have Henderson a little further out, and while Henderson has some capacity right now, in the next 2 years, Henderson will exceed its target enrollment as well. As we come down here, we have Mead Ellis, and Mead Ellis has exceeded its target enrollment. This is part of the Hoffman attendance area. Hoffman has exceeded its target enrollment. This is Ward right here, that's adjacent to this portion of the Scarborough attendance area, and Ward is just slightly above its target enrollment as well currently. So we came over here to look at what's adjacent, and the Burke attendance area and the Knowlton attendance area, we do have some available capacity in those areas. Burke is a target enrollment 550 school. Its base day enrollment was 477 students. Its projection actually declined slightly over time, so we do have some, while not a lot, but some available capacity that we could utilize at Burke Elementary. Knowlton, which is right here off Culebra, had 603 students on base day, and it's a target enrollment 750 school, so we have additional capacity there. You can see its projection continues to decline just slightly over time as well. So Knowlton and Burke are the only two schools that are adjacent to the attendance area for Scarborough where we currently have available capacity. So we wanted to look at in this proposal, what are the areas furthest from Scarborough and closest to those schools. So I'm going to show you the areas. If you'll go to the next slide, please. Go ahead. What we're recommending is that we take a look at these areas here that are part of Scarborough. Remember, this is all part of Scarborough, but are closest to Burke and Knowlton. We also took a look at middle school feeder patterns. And this area that's shaded in green and blue, these two areas are currently in the Zachary boundary, so currently Scarborough, and you'll see when we talk about feeder percentages, Zachary splits between Folks Middle School, so this area attends Folks, and this area attends Zachary Middle School next to Knowlton. So in doing this, we also took a look at those areas that are closest to schools with capacity, and then what does that impact look like with feeders, and we can actually make some improvements there as well. If you go to the next slide. So the areas in green that in this proposal we recommend to move from Scarborough to Knowlton, these are all areas that enter and exit off of Culebra Road. So as you come in and out of these communities, you would exit on Culebra Road and continue straight down Culebra to get to Knowlton. So that is why we grouped this collection of communities to go to Knowlton. Area number 1, right here, this is along the corner of 1560 and Culebra. That's the Carmel Canyon apartment complex. Area number 2, right here, is a fairly new area. It's called Pradera. It's a single-family community that is actually 100% rental homes. So they are homes, and it looks like a normal neighborhood if you were driving through. It just happens to be an entire community of rental projects. This is the third project like that we have in Northside. It's a newer product and seems to be very popular. This area number 3 right here is the Stonebridge community. That's a manufactured home community right across the street from Taft High School. Older, very well developed existing area that's been there for quite some time, as opposed to Pradera next door that's brand new. And then number 4 right here is the Westwood Apartments, and they're also built out and fully occupied. The blue area is Area B. These are the area that we would recommend we move from Scarborough to Burke. And the reason we looked at these areas going to Burke, the number 5 Northwest Trails is a manufactured home community that's been there for quite some time, but is recently expanding. And so there are newer areas being developed at the far back section of the community. And then number 6, Laurel Canyon, right here. These folks enter and exit off the access road of 1604. So we looked at the areas that front Culebra as areas that would traverse directly this way to Knowlton. And these folks, to exit their communities, can only turn right out of their community. They'll come south, they make a U-turn, a Texas turnaround, and they come back up this way and can enter here to come into Burke off of this extension of Shanfield Road. And coming home, they can come out this way and then right back down to where they live. So we tried to look at the way transportation would route students from those communities, as well as the numbers and the capacity that was available at both those campuses.
They can only turn right?
Yes, ma'am.
Access road.
They come out the access road. So the areas in Zone 546, those are the areas that we would recommend to move from Scarborough to Knowlton, so the green area on your map. And that's projected to be about 170 students next year and about 145, 146 students in the out years. The areas from Scarborough to Burke, the blue area, is a little bit smaller, approximately 92 students projected next year and just under 80 students long-term. Go ahead. And so what does that do towards our goal of providing the needed relief for Scarborough that we must provide for next year? Scarborough was projected to be just about 1,200 students next year. If you were moving the areas A out of the green area, out of Scarborough and into Knowlton, you would still have just over 1,000 students at Scarborough next year, and you can see about a little over 1,200 students at the 5-year, about 1,133 10 years out. If you moved both areas A to Knowlton and area B into Burke, Scarborough would still be about 934 students projected next year. So well above the target 800, but also well below that 1,200, which is the capacity with maximum portables that we could serve students there. And if you look by the year 23-24, even after we take the area A and B out, you still have almost 1,150 students projected in the Scarborough attendance area in what's left of Scarborough in the year 23-24. So I mentioned we have 2 schools in this area in this bond issue. Obviously, we're going to be revisiting this area with a future boundary change. But this boundary change allows us to hold the students in that area until we have an opportunity to relieve them with a new school opening. Knowlton, we had about 567 students projected next year. This would project 749 students, which would be right at their target enrollment of 750, and about 680, 673 students in those out years. The area from Burke is projected to have 455 students, and remember 550 is the target enrollment, as Mrs. Chumley mentioned. And this projection would have them at 560, so just right above that target enrollment. And again, you see some of the declining enrollment here, but what we've done with this proposal is really maximize that capacity that we have available in Burke and Knowlton to utilize that capacity and provide that needed relief for Scarborough in the short term. Kind of an added benefit, both if you're a student in a bilingual program at Scarborough, currently you're being bused all the way out to Henderson for bilingual programs. Burke and Knowlton both have a bilingual program on those campuses, so those students that would be moving could be served with their neighborhood kids in their home school of Knowlton and Burke, which is another added benefit.
Debbie, hang on. Mr. Blunt, did you have a question?
I did a detail, just curious on one, on the map, that Rivera area?
Yes, sir.
Area number 2. Now, actually, I was trying to find the numbers. That's not open yet, right? There's nobody that lives there.
We do have some occupancies.
There's some that moved in there? 'Cause okay. Yeah, there's some homes there. I know the homes, but I didn't think okay. I'm just curious when they're gonna.
As is typical when it's a rental property, they're happy to start getting some occupants in before the rest is finished. And that's a typical, similar to what you see in a multifamily complex. Some units will be finished as they continue to build out.
The other thing I was curious about, and maybe coming up, is there, the numbers are small, I assume, to where it doesn't impact the percentage of economic disadvantage?
We actually don't look at percentage of economically disadvantaged when we're doing boundary changes. We've always looked at capacity and where kids live. We don't look at this area, if this was a single-family area, or if this was a multifamily area, if it was all manufactured homes. We don't look at that. We look at the numbers of kids that areas are generating, the projections of development in the future, whatever type that development might be, and the number of students and the capacity at the schools.
Do we have our records from like 10 years ago on boundary changes? Y'all archive those? We need to go back and look, because Bobby, we used to do that. Debbie, we did do that.
It's been a lot longer than that, I'll tell you.
We did do that. We looked at the number of apartment dwellers because of
we
the
do look-
transients.
I'll show you, we do bring the apartment numbers to you, and that, you'll see that.
And then we did look the impact on the economically disadvantaged
The-
population on the school. We did look at that before, and I don't see a reason to not do that. I think it's important that, I don't see a reason to do that. That's not,
I think that's a conversation we need to have separate and apart from this boundary.
okay, then let's,
And
future
Debbie,
agenda items, let's keep that on the list to go to a committee.
and I had a real quick question. When you were doing the slide before that, the effect on sending and receiving schools, just real quick, because I was at Scarborough the other day in Burke and a couple of those others. Scarborough was huge. So I didn't realize the target enrollment, which that's the building enrollment, is 800.
If we had no portables there, and if you had an average class size, which is not,
20.
across our district, we don't average 22 kids in every class, right? It's slightly below that. And in every available classroom that we could schedule children, that gives us our capacity without portables, but our target enrollment is usually pretty close to that. Is it
Sure.
813 or is it 798? It depends on the situation. But it is very full, and we continue to hear from, administration continues to hear from folks about pick up and drop off and things like
Yeah.
that. So we're trying to look in every way possible, and you'll see us in the next several years as we open these new schools and we continue to look at balancing enrollments in these areas, multiple situations like
So just real quick, my question is, so there's about 400 kids that are in portables there. Is that what that is saying? So we're projecting 1196 for 2021 before, I mean, that's before, I'm sorry, but after, it's
If you
300 to
were-
400.
If you were next year, you would, that's a crude way to look at it, yes, that you'd have approximately 800 students in the building, and you have approximately 400
400
students in
in
portables.
portables. Is that unusual?
When we have high growth areas, we have utilized portables to manage our growth until we can open the subsequent
Yeah,
schools.
I just didn't
And-
realize it was that many. I knew it was large, and
We-
it felt large when I was there.
Run schools larger than that
Yes.
for small periods of time in incredibly fast-growing areas.
And that's why there are 2 schools in this, on
Gotcha.
2018 in this general area.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. So we're tasked with the decision principles and other pertinent considerations, and the SBAC committee also looks at this. There's neighborhood integrity, per our board policy, we've not split any neighborhoods when designing this proposal, and we've taken into account all the information we know about current development and expectations for future development. As Mrs. Chumley alluded to, the apartment information, so we do bring you the numbers when we have an apartment complex, so you can have an idea what the enrollment in those is in the current school year. So in the areas from Scarborough to Knowlton, the Carmel Canyon apartments average about 18 elementary students. And so if you're looking at your map, if you wanted to go back to that, that was number 1 in the green area, kind of on the corner of 1560 and Culebra. So approximately 18 students from elementary school is the average. And Westwood Apartments, which is number 4 on your map, closer to 1604 in Culebra, averages approximately 27 elementary students. And in the apartments from Scarborough to Burke, the Laurel Canyon Apartments average approximately 41 elementary school students. Okay. And when we look at frequency of change, because of the policy, if we had moved an elementary child twice in their elementary career, we would not want to do that. We would have to give them an option. These areas were last moved in 2013-14 from Henderson within a boundary change back to Scarborough. So none of these elementary age students will have been moved twice during their elementary career. So we're not moving someone twice during that area. And we looked at feeder patterns, and I mentioned this earlier. Currently, Scarborough is split between Folks and Zachary, so approximately 21% of this elementary students go on to feed Zachary. And in this proposal, we kind of followed that line as well, and so Scarborough would become 100% feeder to Folks. Burke and Knowlton are all currently 100% feeders to Zachary, so this change does not impact middle school feeders for them. And again, we're not making a middle school boundary change, just an elementary, and we've been able to clean up those feeder patterns as well. We look at travel distances, and it is correct that some areas see some improvement and some areas are going to travel a little bit further. The Stonebridge area, which was number 3, the manufactured home community that's right across from Taft High School, currently travels 2.4 miles to get to Scarborough. They would travel 2.6 miles, 2.61 miles to get to Stonebridge. So very, very slight increase. The Carmel Canyon Apartments, and again, that's number 1, kind of at the intersection of 1560 on that corner and Calabria. They currently travel 1.91 miles to Scarborough, and they would travel just over 3 miles to Knowlton. That area sees the biggest increase in travel distance. They're the area that's closest to Scarborough and furthest from Knowlton. The Westwood Apartments, that's closer to the intersection of 1604 and Calabria, they currently travel a little over 3 miles to get to Scarborough, and they would travel a little over 2 miles, so they see an improvement of about a mile in their travel distance to Knowlton. The Northwest Trails, that was number 5 in your map. Those students currently travel approximately 4.22 miles to Scarborough, and will travel approximately 3 miles to Burke and approximately 1.57 miles coming back. Because remember, I talked about they go south on 1604 and then do the loop and come from the north down. So their return trip home is much shorter. Even their traveling distance is shorter than they are currently.
Which way do they go now?
Did you go back to 20,
To
please?
Scarborough?
Okay. So this is the area we're talking about, Northwest Trails.
Okay.
So they turn right, and they have to come down here, and then all the way down Calabria and up here to get to Scarborough.
Okay, so they're already coming down that direction.
That is
So
correct.
The only thing that we're having them do,
Is they'll do the turnaround and
Do
come
a
back
U-
up here.
and they've got like a turn signal
a
to
turn-
do
And-
a U-turn right there
and,
and go back,
You know,
right?
if 1604 traffic is backed up, like we all like it, have an alternate route, they can come this way and come up through the neighborhood if they wanted to do that. They can come past Knowlton, come right up here and travel through the neighborhood. So there are alternatives. And then when they exit school, this comes right out here, there's a little roundabout here, and they'll come up here. Eventually, there's a lot of commercial development going on here. This little short road sits right in between the two car dealerships. There actually will be another little short road between some of that commercial, and those will hook up right back here at this roundabout, so they could even come in here and cut in long-term. That's just not developed yet.
And that, Ms. Chumley, is if they choose to drive, because we will provide transportation. It'll be available.
They're currently riding up.
Actually, really, that would be the better thing, is they'll have the bus
Absolutely.
transportation than trying to do the UE.
They're all eligible now, and they'll remain eligible, all of these areas.
If you go back to slide 27, please. And the last one, the Laurel Canyon Apartments, they travel 3.37 miles currently to Scarborough, and they would travel 2.81 miles to Burke and 2.3 miles coming back. So the area in blue actually has a shorter travel distance to Burke than they do to Scarborough, and then it's kind of a mixed bag with some travel a little further in the green area and some have an improved travel distance. As per board policy, any rising fifth graders from these areas would have the option to remain at Scarborough. There would be no district transportation provided and no siblings. So that is an option to those families should they choose to exercise that. And as we mentioned just a moment ago, all of these areas are currently eligible for transportation to Scarborough, and they would continue to remain eligible for transportation both to Knowlton and to Burke. And that concludes the boundary proposal presentation. We're currently scheduled to meet with the SBAC committee to begin the committee work tomorrow evening. And we have do you want to address how we're going to do that? A little
Yeah,
different
so
process.
As Ms. McNerney mentioned, typically, all of these children already attend Zachary, and typically when we do the hearing, we'll do it at the middle school, which will be Zachary. What we've decided to do and think is a better approach, especially with the groups that we have, which are 2 different groups, is to go ahead and meet at the actual elementary school. And so we've reached out to the principals, and so rather than do it at the middle school, we thought it would be a good idea for the principals to highlight their campuses, and they actually get to visit and begin the welcome there as far as the whole transition, and hopefully that'll make it smoother for everyone.
That's a really good idea.
Yes, ma'am.
We're scheduled to meet do the boundary hearing at Knowlton on Tuesday, January the 7th at 6:30. Usually we start at 7. We're going to start a little earlier since it's elementary families. And then the following Monday, the 13th, we'll be at Burke. And then we're scheduled to come back to the full board with this at the January meeting.
Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, no,
Excuse me, Mr. Blunt, then Ms. Freeman.
Thank you. The other thing I was thinking about, just given and I understand what we're doing proposal-wise, but just given sort of the history of that area from past boundaries, if you may recall.
Sure,
Uh,
so the area as.
Oh, not that part. Oh, no, you're okay.
sorry.
No, I'm sorry, you're okay. No, maybe I'm taking too long to get to my question. The difference, that inside, outside of 1604 is always discussion, so it's not as much the mileage, but it's the time.
Yes.
So that's something we probably need to be prepared for, is whether it's 2.5, 2.68, okay, what's the real time if I've got to go inside
Sure.
as opposed to
And
going
we
outside?
do address that, and what we find is that depending upon what time, even if you talk to
know.
our transportation folks, depending upon what time you drive, who's driving, how fast you drive, what the weather is there an accident, those times can vary greatly, and we do understand, and during the public hearing, we do address that when I get to that transportation slide, or travel distance,
Yeah.
that it is a distance, so we can measure that, but we do understand that when you're crossing 1604, there is traffic.
Right, because to be honest, it's really, I know what you're saying in other areas, but that area there from 1560, you're not moving too fast necessarily. It's pretty consistent, to be honest, so that's all I was going to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Freeman?
Thank you. When will we notify the communities
They're
involved?
Tomorrow, the letters will go out in the mail, and consistent, we had good response, I think, when we've also started emailing them. If you remember when we did the Wernley boundary, now that we've done online registration, we have an email for almost every family. So we'll send the letters out tomorrow, and then the emails will go out to the households that are involved in grades EE through fourth grade. So one child per household, the parents will get an email as well, same packet that they get in the mail. And there is like a Google form they can click on and provide their written feedback that way. They can fax it, email it, they get a paper copy in the hard copy in the mail. So all that will go out well before the holidays.
All right. This was for discussion only. Is there any more discussion? All right, we'll move on to, thank you very much,
Very
Thank
Debbie.
y'all. Thanks, Debbie.
Mr. Galindo, class size waivers.
Yes, ma'am. So tonight we asked for only four waivers. And so that brings the grand total to 185, and still again, below the 22 to 1. When you look at K through 4, it's only 20.26. So the request, Dr. Hall, is for approval of four waivers.
Okay, Ms. Chumley, did you have any discussion?
Well, I had a question. So Ray, what is the max that we allow in kinder?
Kinder is 22. Really, K through 4 is 22.
But what, with waivers though?
24.
We'll go
We
to-
start with 23 is the overwhelming number of classrooms. Once you ask the waiver once, you don't have to go again. Theoretically, you can go any number above that. We choose to go 24 max.
All right, that's what I thought, is we max at 24.
That's our internal operating procedure.
Right. At Lock Hill, do you know off chance where we are from kinder?
I don't, but I can find out.
I'll get with you later on that. I had a parent of one of our teachers come to my desk, I don't know why they do this, but come to my desk at work and ask, his daughter is a kinder teacher, and he asked, why in the world, who in their right mind would put one adult with 24 kinder students? I said, the superintendent. I'm teasing.
I am happy to have that conversation with that individual
I'm teasing, I did it.
and explain the various cost structures involved.
But I'd explain Brian that in the, on it, but he was curious, and I said, well, but I couldn't remember if we made the choice to cap at 24.
Correct.
Which I thought we did, so I'll go back and let him know that we make that choice to do that we could have 40 kinders
Theoretically, yes.
Once the waiver is granted, it's an unlimited number.
in a classroom.
Right. And
Okay,
kindergarten
thank you.
kids are really obedient
like that.
when you have structure. They follow.
Kinder would be,
It's
I
fun.
mean, I don't bring it into
PPC,
know.
well, I taught PPCD, so
middle
That's-
schoolers over 22. I'm
we
like,
have a
oh
motion?
my gosh.
Okay, are there any more questions or discussion? All right, do we have a motion to approve the waivers?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, ladies. All right, and thank you, Mr. Galindo. We will move on to future agenda items. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Hall, fairly small amount of paper in your blue folder tonight. You've got a copy of future agenda items, including upcoming meetings scheduled. I noted the request from Mrs. Chumley with regard to the boundary presentations. You also have a list at the request at the most recent meeting. Ms. McGee and I went back and looked at possibilities for retreat dates later in the winter. And so there's a list of those dates in your folder as well. I think each of you have a separate manila folder with the standard campaign finance report in it. Please get that to Mr. Rastellini. And then last.
Which one of those you take?
Oh, yeah. He's the one in front, yeah. And then last but not least, if you're going to attend the high school dance event tomorrow night, please tell Linda tonight so that we can reserve you a seat. That is every year a standing room only event, and we do not want you standing. So if you're going to go, please tell Linda so we can get you a seat.
And it's at Brennan.
Yes, ma'am. It's at Brennan, 7 o'clock.
Before we leave, David, where do we need to sign? Is there, I mean, there's several,
Second or third
page
page.
second?
Yeah.
And that would be it, other than, okay, thank you.
Can you say that one more time? Can you say it one more time? Where we need to sign? Oh, okay.
There's several,
We'll do individual by individual in the break.
It's page,
Okay.
I assume we're gonna go into the other.
the one that shows all the financial pieces.
Where it says your name, you sign above your name where it's me.
except there's several places where,
Yeah, but that's only if you've done anything on that page. If you
okay,
haven't done anything,
got
you
it.
don't need to do it.
Okay, the Board of Trustees on December 10th, 2019, beginning at 8:17, will convene in closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074. We will have discussion on the following items: deliberation, consultation with our school attorney, sites, and several appointments, along with the superintendent's mid-year evaluation. All right, the Board of Trustees on December 10th, 2019, beginning at 10:04 PM, will convene an open meeting. Action will take place on the following items: consideration and possible action concerning pending litigation and possible settlement of student versus Northside before a special education hearing officer for the state of Texas, docket number 342-SE-0619.
Can I ask something just real quick?
Sure.
Do you need us to, what do you want us to do? with
I'm looking
Those possible board retreat dates, just
Oh.
send in when they can, I mean, what are
Well,
we
did
doing
we
with-
still, those were our backup if we still wanted to, and do we need to have it?
I don't know.
I'm seeing no, 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 Karen? No, Bobby, no, no. I think the answer's,
I mean, I'm.
fire
fine either way.
starter. Okay,
That'll work.
or bird paper or something. Okay, thank you. Forgot all about that. Okay. Is
So-
there a, oh, go ahead. Okay, is there a motion before the board regarding action on letter A?
I move, wait, letter A is,
Consideration and possible action concerning
Oh, on
pending
the-
litigation.
okay. I move approval as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Is there a motion for the appointments of personnel?
Appointments of personnel as discussed in closed meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right. Second was Melissa Chumley. And that's it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The board ended its meeting at 10:06 PM on December 10th, 2019, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and ho, ho, ho. And all of the above. See you next year. What? The board would like to acknowledge and um, show its gratitude and appreciation for our mid-year evaluation of our superintendent's actions and subsequent growth in the district, and as far as what was shared with our goals, our board and superintendent goals, but also all the activities and actions that he's been involved in. We're in good hands, and if anybody wants to add anything, please feel free, because obviously I'm just
Thumbs up.
rambling. Thumbs up and tired, yes. Great job, yay. Exceeds expectations,
There you
that's for
go.
sure. And I promise I won't forget to introduce you again like I did last time.